Big time fight coming up this weekend in our main event at featherweight. We have the Korean Zombie Sung Jung taking on 50K Dan Ige. Used to be Dynamite, but this guy gets bonuses, and you saw it his last time out with a huge win over fellow Canadian Gavin Tucker. As always, one half of your hosting duo, Craig Allen. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Craig Allen FNP. With me to my left, to your right, Matt Allen, my brother. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram as well at Matt Allen FNP. Now, Matt, we have a big time fight coming up this weekend, and we talked about it at the start of the video. So if you missed it, go all the way back. But for the Korean Zombie, this is a guy that's main evented 7 times before that. This is his 8th main event in a row. And if you want to go way back and find his last 3-round fight, it was a very quick knockout over the hometown guy Mark Hominick at UFC 140 in Toronto. Beautiful. December of 2011. It's insane the run that this guy has gone on. And if you look at it, in his last 6 fights, little chintzy. I mean, he's 3-3 in the last 6. Dennis Bermudez knocked him out in the first round back in 2017. Knocked out Renato Moicano 2019 in the first round. Knocked out Frank Yeager in the first round 2019. Fought Jose Aldo in 2013. Lost in the 4th round. That was for the title. The Rodriguez fight, the comeback fight, like he'd been away, 2018, lost in the 5th round in the last second of that one. And then the Brian Ortega fight that he lost by decision, all 3 judges, 50-45, where he kind of looked like he lost a step, and that's what makes this fight so compelling, because Dan Ige had the one misstep in his UFC career. Again, Julio Arce fight was close in his debut, UFC 220, went on a heater of a run, lost to Calvin Kattar handily in a main event where he got his ears boxed in. And then for Korean Zombie, he got his ears boxed in against the grappler who was making the comeback. This is a weird fight.
I have to throw us both under the bus right now because we both had terrible predictions based on both of... Well, you had one on one half of the main event. I had one in the other half of the main event. You said Gavin Tucker would beat Dan Ige. Now, I thought it was ridiculous, and I looked smart in hindsight. Now, I will also throw myself under the bus, and I said Sung Jung was going to destroy Brian Ortega. I didn't think that fight was going to be close at all. I thought Korean Zombie, you have no idea. Like, I thought he was going to go in there, TKO Brian Ortega like it was nothing, call it Max Holloway, and then we were bound for, like, one of the great fights of all time. He looked terrible in that fight, though. And it was one of those weird fights where I think Sung Jung, people know that his pressure has almost become a detriment to his game, where he moves forward with such reckless abandon that he has become hittable. And the real question mark for me is, how good is Sung Jung's chin still? Because the Korean Zombie nickname, it's fun and all that, and like Justin Gaethje can be called the highlight, because although he's been knocked out 2 times, I know Justin Gaethje can eat a crazy amount of punishment before he does get knocked out. Like in the Eddie Alvarez fight, he still ate about 55 overhands, and in the Poirier fight, he ate about 55 overhands, and then he eventually went down. But with Sung Jung, it is starting to get to the point now where when you hit him clean, he does at least get rocked from it. If you go back to Dennis Bermudez fight, where yes, Dennis Bermudez, especially at that time, was a much different fighter than I guess we look back upon him now as, but he was a real legit top 5er who was going in there and having crazy fights with a lot of guys. And the fact that he was able to rock Sung Jung, it wasn't all that surprising, but knowing what we know now, it kind of is, because for the Korean Zombie, you don't get that nickname by getting rocked by guys like Dennis Bermudez. You eat damage and you walk forward. And I know it's just a nickname and whatnot, but it is his style. Like, he has to rely on his durability to have success. He is a guy who does rely on the fact that I can eat 2 shots to land 1 because my 1 shot is so much more damaging than my opponent's 2. But when we saw that Brian Ortega fight, and he even said so afterwards, he gets hit by that beautiful spinning elbow that Ortega throws, and then he's just not in the fight whatsoever. And he said, like, oh, I was rocked, and I never really felt like I could get back into the fight after that. And if you want to take him at his word, and listen, there's no reason not to, then yes, that kind of explains his bad last few rounds, but it will be interesting to see how he eats the power of Dan Ige, because for as much as Dan Ige, yes, the nickname's Dynamite and 50K, he's not really a knockout artist. Like, he's a good boxer, he's got good hands and whatnot, but I don't really look at Dan Ige as like an Edson Barbosa in this division, where it's like, wow, you really gotta watch out for the power. He's a great, well-rounded mixed martial artist who can offer guys a lot of looks, but I always feel like with Dan Ige, and I do feel like the Calvin Kattar fight speaks to this, he is always kind of a step behind those pure specialists out of the division.
Now, when I look at this one, for Sung Jung, you know, he does do some training at Korean Zombie MMA over in Korea. But if you look at it, trains at a Fight Ready MMA. Now, listen, we always talk about Fight Ready. We talked about it a lot last weekend, and I think it plays a little bit here. So hear me out. Eric Anders took on Darren Stewart. Eric Anders was always an SBG Alabama guy. He relied on his athleticism and his takedowns. And yeah, did he do a little bit of that in his last fight against Darren Stewart? Well, for sure.
Terrible fight.
But his last 2 camps have been at Fight Ready MMA with Eddie Cha as a striking coach. And Eddie's really made some improvements in Eric Anders' game. Eddie Cha, of course, in the corner for this one. And you look at it and listen, you could hear it in Anders' last fight that he was really picking up on the clear instructions that you could hear over the broadcast from Eddie Cha. He was yelling combinations. He was yelling about his footwork. If we can get any of that with the Korean Zombie, obviously it's a really big help. So it's definitely worth mentioning. But if you do look at it as far as training partners at Fight Ready, Marco Madsen's over there right now. You're going to get that wrestling look for a fight like this. Leandro Dhiego, who just had a really big win over with Bellator, and some other maybe usual suspects that you have. Bruno Silva, not the guy fighting this weekend that had to fight the USADA scandal, the little guy. Shimon Moraes, who had a big win with PFL just last week. And then, if you want it, Hunter Azure, good wrestler. Jonathan Pierce, long striker, close to this division. And then throw another one in there, similar division, Luis Saldana. So a lot of really good guys in those lower weight classes, bodies that you can get in to get a striking look, to get a wrestling look, to get a grappling look. And I like that for the Korean Zombie. But the same thing can be said for Dan Ige coming out of Extreme Couture, where there's no shortage of fighters in the lower weight classes.
Without a doubt. And the good thing for Sung Jung, like you talked about, he does have a plethora of training partners who are going to help him train the specific things that Dan Ige excels at. The one thing, though, for Dan Ige, and again, this fight for me does come down to the Korean Zombie's ability to accept damage. Because for Ige, a very compact fighter at 145, not a big guy for the weight division, kind of reminds me of like Ally Quint at 55. Not too big for the weight class, not too small, just a perfect guy for the weight class. Like, he's going to be bigger than some guys, but smaller than like the truly huge. Like, look at his fight against Edson Barbosa. Edson was huge compared to Dan Ige. And I understand there was a very controversial decision in which me and many others believe Edson Barbosa won, but it was still a good performance by Dan Ige. Not many guys can eat like an overhand right elbow into an overhand right from Edson Barbosa, get dropped, and then still get up to get a takedown on him. Like, Dan Ige showed a great chin and great heart throughout that fight. For me, this is one of two things. It's either going to be a y'all must have forgot by the Korean Zombie, where he's going to land one beautiful boxing combo like he did against Frankie Edgar, rock Dan Ige, take him down, probably ground and pound him or submit him, because the Korean Zombie really does have great jiu-jitsu, which is not something that really gets talked about. Similar to like a Jose Aldo. We brought up his grappling against Marlon Vera. Jose Aldo is so known for his striking that he never really has to use his grappling, but it is in his back pocket. And I do look at the Korean Zombie that way. Like, he trained with Henry Gracie a lot. This was while he was off due to his mandatory military service for South Korea. He was still training and getting better during his time off, and that's just a great thing to see from Sung Jung. But for me, I keep on going back to that Brian Ortega performance, and I know I talked about the improvements that he makes. He just looks so bad in that fight.
And that's the thing. I mean, you look at the Korean Zombie, talk about the accumulation of damage. You look at the career strike differential that's 0.14 out of a striker. That's not good. You like to see it like a big differential over a long career. Not good, but the takedown defense, 75%. He didn't get taken down, lay off or not, for over 7 years. It was between the Aldo fight to the Ortega fight. That's insane. That's really, really good. And he did have fights in between. So you do like to see that. But for Dan Ige, again, had a poor performance against a very good pure boxer in Calvin Kattar in a main event at the Apex facility. For the Korean Zombie, his last fight, again, a main event, that one was over at Fight Island. So it'll be interesting to see how he acclimatizes in Vegas for this fight. Obviously, he's been in Phoenix training for it, so it shouldn't be too bad, but something of note. So I do look at this one. Again, we talk about Ige. Let's mention a couple training partners before we move too far on. Patchy Mix, Mads Burnell, Jeremy Kennedy. Those are the guys in the lower weight classes that'll give you a good look. Jason Jack.
Justin James,
who I meant to say. What else? Kai Kamaka, Boston Salmon, Gustavo Lopez. These are all the names
less, Craig,
that I had written down. But a guy that's been posting a lot of strength and conditioning on his Instagram, so you do like to see that out of Ige in a 5-round fight with a guy like Zombie that's pretty hard to put away. Lots of clips over there. You can check them out. Matt, I look at this one, and I was kind of surprised by the odds, actually, because it's a pick'em fight.
They make sense, though.
They're both a -110. If we look at Fight Night picks in the YouTube community tab, 52% have Ige to 48% that have Sung Jung. 1,400 total votes, which is more than they actually have over on Tapology, where 61% have Jung and 39% have Ige. So the Fight Night picks fans right now have Ige. The Tapology fans have Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. So what are you ultimately thinking here?
This might take me a second to fully articulate my prediction, but just bear with me. I think Dhiego is going to land first in this fight. The problem that Sung Jung has a lot, if you go all the way back to the Aldo fight, everything he throws is a hook. He has great power, don't get me wrong, but it's because of the style of punches he throws. There's a lot of overhands, a lot of hook punches. Most guys do beat him because of their straight shots. And for Dhiego, he is known for, he's got a great jab, he's got a great right hand, and he is a very defensively sound fighter too. He's always got his hands up, which is the exact opposite of the Korean Zombie. So for me, it comes down to, if Dhiego lands on the Zombie and he hurts him, then Dhiego is going to win this fight. He's going to keep on landing first over and over again. If Zombie can weather some of those early shots of Dhiego and start to land in combination as this fight goes on, I do see it being Zombie's fight to lose. But for me, I do have to side with Dhiego. I like what I saw in his last fight against Gavin Tucker, and listen, I understand it was only a minute, but he does have deceiving power, I would say, and even I don't put a lot of stock into Dhiego's power because I think he's a guy who really prioritizes his technique over just trying to hit a guy hard with one shot. Like, Dhiego, I understand he got out-volumed by Calvin Kattar, and Calvin Kattar's the faster guy to those two. He just is. But for Dhiego, he's going to have above average power, I would say, and above average volume. And I think that nowadays, that's what you need to beat the Korean Zombie. The Korean Zombie could go out there, hit him with one long combination, hurt Dhiego, and then put him away. But I just don't think that's going to happen this weekend.
I mean, for me, Dhieg's output is just about on par so far through the UFC, albeit against the lower level competition the Korean Zombies had. But again, it's right on par to about what he absorbs. His strikes absorbed, it's a little bit low. You like to see it. Good defense on both sides, like you said. Listen, he's the type of guy that he'll give up a takedown if it really needs to happen because he's so good in the scrambles. He's so good with his jiu-jitsu.
And just to build upon that, like, Dhieg's not a guy in my head who I ever think gets held down. Like, when he does get taken down, like you would just say, he immediately pouts back up to his feet. Like, he's very confident in his own wrestling that way, where, like you said, he can give up a takedown just to make his opponent work because he is so confident in his ability to get back up.
To me, the tricky thing is, though, Dhieg's got to mix every tool that he has to win this fight. I don't think he can purely do it.
I agree.
Maybe he hits a lucky early, not lucky. It's definitely going to be placed. But if he's able to place a really good hard shot early, maybe he's able to put the Korean Zombie away. That would be insane. Brian Ortega couldn't do it. But I do like the Korean Zombie in this fight because if he does draw Ige into those exchanges, Korean Zombie with the volume, with the footwork, everything can kind of work now.
Fight.
Does stand quite high up, does leave his head out there. You worry about it a little bit. But again, I do see this one being very, very close. And for me, it was a really, really hard one to pick. I've been on the fence. So yeah, it is tricky.
It's kind of wild how this fight got put together, though, because everybody has to remind themselves. Like, Dhiego called out the Korean Zombie before the Gavin Tucker fight was ever put together. He was like, hey, we're both coming off losses in main events. This would make sense. Sung Jung basically did the Jeremy Stevens, like, who the fuck is that guy? Didn't know who Dhiego was. Dhiego knocks out Gavin Tucker in 10 seconds, and then Sung Jung's like, hey, I know who you are now. And then this fight gets signed. So for Dhiego, like, completely changed the trajectory of his career and with one impressive performance, So for Dhiego, he is right back to where he was pre-Calvin Kattar fight, and this is a huge opportunity for both men.
I mean, hey, you make your own conclusions from this one because we are both split. Matt's got Ige, I've got the Korean Zombie. Absolutely love this fight and can't wait for the fights coming up on Saturday. So, little bit of a twist this week. I've got a weird schedule. This is the first Saturday that I'm going to miss, and I know exactly when it was.
Vintage.
It was
Curtis Blades against Derek Lewis, but then it fell out.
It was Dan Ige's last time out. What was it? Or it was Dan Ige's time out in May of last year. That was way back on a Fight Night card. That was Overeem Harris. That was the last card that I missed on a Saturday. That's crazy.
Wild.
I was out in the woods camping. I'm doing the same thing this Saturday. So, all that to say, I'm going to be in a remote location. We're going to do question mark kicks however we can. It's going to happen, so just stay tuned, please. I can't stress it enough. You can follow us at Fight Night Picks on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me at Craig Allen FNP, Matt at Fight Night Picks. But we're very active on Twitter, maybe more so than Instagram. There's always a story out there because I make sure I always post, or you post on the Instagram story. So there's always something to check out. But in the community tab on YouTube as well, we will alert you. We'll let you know when that show is going to happen because we're not going to let you hang on that one. So it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen from probably out in the woods, but you can bet your ass it's going to happen. So really looking forward to it. Big card coming up this weekend. Make sure, please, you keep locked in with Fight Night Picks. And one other thing. We're just a few hundred subscribers shy of 25,000. So if you're just hanging out on the periphery thinking, geez, these guys are doing a decent job, They're not just skinny long vampires that are out there for a good time. Maybe we are.
I get a little more sun.
But just hit that sub, hit that like, and you'll know when question mark kicks is going to happen as well. So, as always, we say with Fight Night Picks, Matt, let's get into it.